because so what's up, Mike? When you go 5 seasons and you are the bottom of the barrel, 5 seasons, 4 different head coaches, you've really turned over your entire roster.
Right.
2 different general managers. You can't tell me that, and I've said this before, that Cleveland went through this for years. Oakland's been through this, where you go through this revolving door of coaches. Every year or two, you're screaming, fire the coach, and they bring a new coach in, new coaching staff in. You're never really giving your coach an opportunity to do anything. I mean,
Right.
year 2, 3, you're really trying to. You look at some of the most successful teams in the league, their coaching staff has been in place for a very long time.
Right.
They found pretty good success, and they didn't all start out winning as well as they're winning right now. Some of them have, but not all of them. You can't have this coaching carousel and think you're going to find success. It just doesn't work.
Right.
So I say that to say, you can't tell me that the coaching has been the problem in New York. You know what I think the problem in New York is? It's the culture. They're just so used to losing that they just say whatever. They don't put forth the effort.
And that's what I'm saying. If they end up with like a top 7 pick, and it probably won't happen, but like if I'm Cleveland and let's just say we end up not making the playoffs this year, there's still a chance we can, still just it's probably about 50-50 at this point, right? If I'm Cleveland, when we don't make the playoffs this year, we're going to get rid of OBJ, whether we let him walk or we manage to get something, whatever. He's gone. Landry's gone, probably more than likely, unless he wants to rework his deal. I mean, I don't know. If I'm the GM, like I take a look around the league, like we don't have a team where you want to draft a rookie quarterback. You want someone with some experience. I don't see, like, if Pittsburgh's a destination and Cleveland's a destination, I think Aaron Rodgers chooses Pittsburgh for a lot of the reasons you just said. Stability, even though I don't think Stefanski's in any trouble, but there's Tomlin's been there since he was like 34, I think, as a head coach, So, I mean, there's stability there. So I think Rodgers goes to Pittsburgh over Cleveland. And you can argue whose roster is better, but I think that's where he goes if he goes somewhere. And I think Pittsburgh honestly has the room to sign him and Devontae Adams, which I think is a plus for him. So you look around the league, you get him. I don't know if I necessarily want to tie myself to Watson. You hear rumors about Wilson, but he's not happy in Seattle. He's not going to be happy in Cleveland. You know what I'm saying? Like the market's he wants to be in a big market. So maybe he manages to go to New York, right? Because that was the rumor a couple of years ago anyway. Maybe he gets traded to New York, and that frees up Daniel Jones. I think Daniel Jones is an upgrade over Baker. I'll say it right now. So
Mike White's an upgrade over Baker.
Let's not go. Let's let him have one more game. I mean, Baker's thrown for 400 yards in a game too. Granted, we lost it, but still.
Mike, your face said it all.
Already moving on from Baker.
I don't think they keep it. I just don't think they're going to keep it. I'm not. We started this conversation off with, we both like Baker. I think he fits in Cleveland, like his personality. I think he fits in Cleveland. I just don't see the GM in there. I just don't see them keeping him, is what I'm saying at this point.
Could you imagine how good Cleveland would be, Mike, if they had a quarterback that was a step? I think Baker Mayfield's a game manager, right? With all the talent that they have there, they still found a way to win with Baker Mayfield as their quarterback. If they had a better quarterback, this is not a knock on Baker. I like him, right? I love his commercials too. But to be the quarterback of a team with all the talent that's in Cleveland right now, I don't think he's the guy. Not to take them where they want to go.
I don't think he's the guy, and I think that he's the reason OBJ is not playing well, or even a version remotely close to what he was in New York. Right? They just don't have chemistry. They don't, and it's in the numbers, right? Like I can remember Chris talking about how many times, he was trying to throw the ball to OBJ. That's not the case this year, man.
Yeah.
OBJ's got like 2-3 targets a game tops, right? Like, how do you not target him 5 times minimum?
So fun fact, I went ahead and did the math. OBJ is making about $800,000 a catch right now because that's how few catches he has. He barely has more catches than millions he's making when he plays the full year. What started this is I'm at a point with it where, like, look, I like Baker and I think we can ultimately win with Baker. The problem with Baker is too many things have to be going right. Baker's not a guy that he can protect the lead in the fourth quarter. If we're up a touchdown, I totally believe Baker will do enough to make sure we don't lose that game. That's fine. But what he has shown time and time again, if he is down and we need a touchdown and the ball's in his hands, it's not going to happen. It's every game we've lost this year, we have had the ball, with the exception of the Cardinals game. We've had the ball at the Chiefs, at the Chargers, and home against the Steelers. We've had the ball with 2 minutes left and just needing a touchdown, and he's lost every game. And that's the pattern. Like, he doesn't have a ton of fourth quarter comebacks. He just doesn't. And I don't think, and it's just what it is. I still hold that our team only needs a quarterback that's going to go 250 to 300 and 2 touchdowns with no turnovers, and we'll win the majority of our games. The problem is with Baker, you get him to the fourth quarter and we're down a touchdown and he's not going to win it for you. Like, someone else has to, and that's not how it's going to work.
Yeah.
Why are we talking about Cleveland?
Well, we were talking about New York and Cleveland, and you weren't on. We were waiting for you, because I think Cleveland should make a run at Daniel Jones. Was the ultimate talking point there.
Oof, not really sure about that either.
Statistically, he's doing. I mean, they're 15-16 right now, so statistically they're about even. But I'd argue Daniel Jones plays on a worse offense, and he has a run. He can run. Daniel Jones can run if he needs to for a first down. Baker, you have to design it for him to, and that's ultimately the problem with the Browns right now. We can manufacture things, but we don't have people beating anyone and turning what should be a 5-yard gain into a touchdown. We don't have anything like that. And that's what except for Chubb, who's injured, and Hunt, who's also injured. Right. Those are our 2 players that can do that. Our receivers don't, for whatever reason. And
I don't think it's an upgrade though, right? Like, it's not an upgrade, right? Like, it's not. I don't think it's getting you any closer to what you are right now, right? And I'll say this, right? Like, I think that Daniel Jones plays well. He's had some really nice games. He can absolutely run the ball. He's fucking fast as hell. He's got a good arm, right? But the way that the Giants defense played last night, they should have won that game, right? I don't know why they didn't win that game.
I'll tell you why they didn't. Because our offensive coordinator's a fucking douche. He doesn't know how to call a game. I'm going to give you another reason why. Because our head coach called 3 defensive timeouts and left no timeouts for the offense. So when you needed to get down the field with a minute left to go in the game, you had no timeouts to throw across the middle and pick up 10, 15 yards.
No shot.
You were forced to try to do everything to the outsides, and they were ready for it. And Spagnuolo, because he was a former Eagle, he's going to blitz the shit out of you when he knows you're going to pass the ball.
Oh, yeah.
That's what happened. I'm telling you, it was poor clock management, timeout usage by the head coach, and piss poor play calling by the offensive coordinator. A player as dynamic as Kadarius Toney doesn't get a single snap till the second quarter. How does that happen? How's he not on the field to start the game? Does that make any sense? Why are you blaming your headsets? You're blaming your headsets and saying they failed, and that's the reason you called 3 defensive timeouts and left no timeouts for your offense to work. I'm telling you, man. And then not for nothing, Daniel Jones is 15th in the league, like Chris was talking about right now, as far as quarterbacks go.
Yeah.
That's 15th in the league while missing 60% of his offense
Yeah.
all year. Behind an offensive line that can't run block for shit, but pass blocks pretty well. And he still managed to find himself just above the middle of the pack.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand it, bro. I'll tell you what, and this is what I said to Chris before you got on. The head coach is probably going to get another year. He's going to have to. They can't keep doing this coaching carousel.
Yeah, I heard
going to
that
be
part.
out. I'm sorry?
I heard that part. You think he's going to get another year, though?
I think he has to. They can't keep doing this. They can't. You can't keep firing. What's wrong in New York is not the head coach. That's just the face. That's just the face right now. There's something else that's wrong. Think about the Knicks for years. It's the culture. And sometimes as you get the right guy in who helps to foster the better culture, like Tom Thibodeau does. But what Tom Thibodeau does beyond the culture is you believe you're going to win with this guy. And these players have elevated their game. They lost last night to Toronto, but they still played well. They just didn't play well near the end. But when it comes to this coaching, change your head coach I listen to talk radio every day, and I hear the same shit week after week about you need to fire this coach. You need to, like, what difference has that done with the last 4 coaches? Are you serious right now? There's something that's wrong, and it goes way beyond the head coach.
So really quick before we continue, Loy, why don't you give us a lead in, just so as much as just so we can kind of get a flow to the
A
show.
lead in for what, man? We've been recording since I got here.
Oh, have we really?
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Well, I'll just edit that part out. Screw it. We'll just have Atticus ranting as soon as we come in.
It's just hot out the gate, man. Like we're not playing around.
Unscripted, right?
Yeah, that's what it is.
Unscripted, free flowing. I mean,
That's
honestly,
right.
I think that's what makes the best podcast, right? Like when we just go off the cuff and go in a million different directions, but try to pull it back, but still go in another direction. Like I think that's what makes the best podcast.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'll say it again. For as much as I have ragged on Daniel Jones, like I truly 100% believe that he would be an upgrade in Cleveland. I think if you give him a line, you give him receiving, like even if we lose OBJ and Landry, we still have like Higgins had his first drop in the Pittsburgh game. That was his first drop in 2 years. Like we have good receivers behind those two. You just don't know it because we're forcing the offense to flow through them, and they're not, frankly, doing a whole lot. Peoples-Jones is a beast waiting to happen. And honestly, as of right now, like unless Rodgers or Russell Wilson can be had for a cheap, relatively inexpensive, all things considered. Like, yeah, I'd much rather go after a Daniel Jones or something like that. Like, see if a different, because I don't want to go back on the QB carousel and try drafting a rookie. And at least like if we bring in Jones and offer him 25, 30 a year, like that should at least give us some stability there. And if Stefanski's in on it, at least that will give Stefanski his guy. Because I look at the draft class for quarterbacks this year anyway, and there's no one good. And plus, the Browns are good enough to where we're not going to have a top 10 pick. We might not make the playoffs, but we're going to be in the mid-teens at the very, very best in terms of the draft. So we're not going to get one of these quarterbacks anyway. How do
you have what are you looking at? That Daniel Jones is 15 and Baker's 16. What are you looking at?
This is just what I've seen on ESPN. That's just where they have them ranked.
Oh,
What are you looking at, Mike?
I'm looking at pro reference stats. So, like, if you go off QBR, or let's just go QB rating, right? Because QBR takes into effect, your record, your win loss, and all that. But QB rating is like how you perform as a quarterback. The Daniel Jones is 24, Baker's 15.
NFL.com has him 13 in passing yards. I guess I'd have to go through all the stats. Their default setting is on passing yards. QBR, let's see, quarterback rating.
QBR is like, to me, the ultimate stat to rank a quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got Daniel Jones 23, Baker 27. So
That's
yeah,
right.
Daniel Jones is better.
Better with a worse team, though.
Yeah.
I think that's the point that we're getting at here. If you had a better play caller, I don't even know what to say about what's going on. I'm just going to default to whatever anybody else says about what's going on in New York. But I got an interesting question for you. If a quarterback played a full game, starting quarterback, they had 100 passing yards against a similarly matched opponent, 0 touchdowns, 0 picks. Does that team that quarterback plays for win the game?
With only 100 passing yards?
100 passing yards.
Sometimes
less than 10 completions.
Well, I mean,
typically not.
Peyton Manning won the Super Bowl and he only threw for like 130 in that last game with Denver.
What was the score
of that Super Bowl? It was like what, 20-14 or something. I mean, it wasn't high scoring.
Jalen Hurts completed 9 passes, no TDs, 103 yards, 44-6. I think one of those touchdowns was on the defensive side of the ball, though.
So now you got to bring up fucking the Eagles, right? Sirianni is a weird ass motherfucking coach. I don't know what
What did I say to you last week? What did I say? If he runs the ball, you're gonna win this game.
Yeah, and he ran the ball. He
Down
forgot
there
to pass
first.
the ball. Forgot to pass the ball completely, right? Like Jordan Howard comes out of nowhere. Boston Scott comes out of nowhere. Where have these guys been?
What do you have? 230 rushing yards or some ridiculous number?
It was ridiculous, man. I mean, their offensive line, like we've had this discussion, right? Like, I understand where some people's thought processes are. Like, you have to call a game based on the defense's strength, right? And if they have a strong line and play well against the run, you probably shouldn't run the ball. I mean, I'm old school, man. I think you should go smash mouth and set up the pass. That's just the way I believe.
Me too.
And that's
if you're
why I
running
like Cleveland's
not
offense.
working, you better stick with it. If you don't stick with it, you're one-dimensional, and they're just going to blitz the hell out you.
And you're done. We've seen it. Jalen Hurts is essentially a rookie. And by the way, he's 25th in that list. So you got Jones, Hurts, Baker, 23, 25, 27, right? QBR. So,
And Baker should not be down that low.
No, he shouldn't be.
Not with that team.
Shouldn't be. And it's and the run game that he's got, That's why I like Cleveland, because they run the ball.
Next to that, because there's some injuries there, but you're right.
But I don't understand. So Jalen, I don't think he threw the ball more than 15 times.
He threw it 11 times, I think. Let me see. 14 times.
14 pass attempts versus how many rushing attempts?
7.
No, like total rushes did the Eagles have?
Oh, total rushes?
Yeah.
42 rushing attempts.
Why couldn't they do this when
Miles Sanders?
It makes for a pretty boring game, but it's effective.
I tell you, it's so granted Miles was hurt, and why weren't they doing this with Miles Sanders? But why were you not getting Boston Scott on the field? Why is Jordan Howard on the practice squad? Like, you essentially have 4 running backs in Philly that could be on the field and make plays. You have, when Sanders is healthy, you got Sanders, Boston Scott, Howard, and Gainwell, right? And then you got a tight end, and you have 2 quality receivers. You could figure out a way to get them on the field equally. And really, I don't know. I'm not an NFL head coach, but I think I can coach better than Serie A. There, I said it.
I coach better than freaking anybody except for Patrick Graham. I think he's a pretty good coach, but.
Well, see, that's the weird thing, because I think Stefanski's a pretty decent coach.
I do too.
It's weird because like they want to run an analytics team, and analytics says you should pass first and then run after that, because you can get more yards on first down passing usually on average, right? And we have the line our line is just as good as Pat's blocking as they are creating running lanes. So I think I'm finally starting to come around on that. Like, not that I've ever thought Baker was all world. I don't think I've ever made that argument. Like, maybe in jest I have, but when we seriously talk about it, I think I've said like 12th is about where I see Baker peaking, right? I don't know anymore if he's I don't know what something is fundamentally broken with the passing game in Cleveland. And I don't know what it is, because it's weird. Like, you look at Baker, and he had a worse QBR than Ben did in the Steelers Browns game, right? I want to say Ben had somewhere in the 90s and Baker had an 86. But the thing is, if you take out the 6 drops, or even if half of those 6 drops are completions, well, now his completion percentage is up in the high 70s, and his QBR is higher than Ben's. His QBR is going to be over 100 at that point. So it's real frustrating, and that's what makes trying to assess Baker Mayfield and whether we should tie ourselves to him. I don't know, because you look at him sometimes and the fire is there, right? You're like, yeah, I want that guy on my team. And also, not for nothing, Cleveland's had terrible quarterbacks for so freaking long that the fact that Baker is just like questionably good is like, fucking the second coming of Bernie Kosar as far as we're concerned. So like, it's just hard because we can't assess what he can do with 2 years of the same thing, because everyone's injured. He's injured. It's crappy. And it's just one of those things where I think we do have to move. Like, that whole thing just needs to be moved on from it. And the thing is, I don't know, like, we were not going to get anything for Odell. So that's a bust. And I don't know, there's finger point, like Odell's not pointing a finger, but his dad is posting things online on Twitter or something.
Yeah.
Like, there's apparently a video where it's like 11 minutes of Odell being open, which in the 4 games this season, I haven't seen it personally because it keeps getting taken down before I can see it.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know how you judge that. Like, cause there's other factors to why, like, if Baker makes a hot read because there's a blitz, like, yeah, he's not going to throw it to, regardless of how open. Or is he open because something else is going on the play that's drawing a defender away at that point? Like, I don't know. I haven't seen the video. Maybe you guys have and can shed some light for me.
I heard of it, but didn't see it. But Mike, what do you think? Do you think Baker is the answer in Cleveland moving forward?
I'm going to say, yeah. I don't think they have a better option. There's no one above him that they can go get that's available, right? Who are you going to go get? Teddy Bridgewater?
Mike White,
Jacoby Brissett. Who are you going to go get, right? And
right.
I really think the problem is that OBJ is a distraction. And I think OBJ is a phenomenal athlete. But 4 games ago, whatever you want to, we weren't having this discussion about Baker. We were discussing whether or not he was going to get $30 to $40 million if he got re-signed, right? That's the discussion we were having. Not that they should move on from him, and then Baker comes back to play after injury, and now all of a sudden we're having this, or OBJ comes back after injury, and now we're having this discussion. It's not a good mix. It's a distraction. There's 2 giant egos on the field at the same time, whether they want to admit it or not. Baker's got a fucking ego. He does, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like, that's, that's who he is. I think that he's going to make some really nice plays. He's got a hell of an arm. He can escape when he needs to. He'd like to be a little bit faster, but if you were to get, something other than OBJ in there. When OBJ's not on the field, man, Cleveland's winning ball games. That's the proof I had to go off of.
I said that 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Who are they going to get? There's
Well, and that's where
the Giants
that's
would be
where
stupid to not re-sign Daniel Jones. They would be stupid.
I don't think the Giants are going to not re-sign Daniel Jones. We were just talking about
Right.
what an upgrade would be. But I have I think I have a better question for you guys. This is getting away from our beloved teams that we've been just filling the podcast with right now. But can you tell me who is more perplexing this year? Is it the New York Jets, who somehow beat the Tennessee Titans, somehow beat the red hot Cincinnati Bengals, or we can't figure out what the hell's going on with Kansas City Chiefs? Which one is the most surprising of the two teams?
Can I throw another one in there?
Yeah.
The Chargers. What's going on with that?
I got another team. The Saints. They're 5 and they're 5 and what? They have
they are the least impressive winning team in the league right now.
They're 5 and fucking 2. I didn't realize that until we were talking about. I just assumed they had a losing record, but no, they're 5 and 2.
Simeon coming in after what's his name tore his MCL,
and they put up 23 straight points against the Buccaneers.
The Buccaneers,
like what? Like what is going on this year? It's like last year was weird, so this year we're just making it extra weird. I don't know. The Chargers. I mean, I will say the one thing is I did pick the Patriots to win going into that because the Patriots always seem to do that because they took Mike Williams out of the equation. And Mike Williams, like kind of like how the Chiefs seem to go with how Tyreek Hill goes. Mike Williams is kind of that for the Chargers. The better his game, the more likely they are to win. And I don't know exactly what his stats were. I just know he only scored me like 4 fantasy points. So I'm guessing they weren't great. But yeah, like there are any number of teams. Like the Jets have kind of been that way for a couple of years where they'll suck and then they just somehow jump up and bite a team every year, it seems like. But the Chargers I can't figure out because one week it seems like they're the best team in their division. Now people are saying it could be the Raiders, who all they did is have a bye week. So I don't know what they did to earn that, that thing. But the Saints,
they're 5 and 2.
I still can't believe
They're 5 and 2. I didn't think the Raiders were 5 and 2 until I looked at the standings today. I was like, ooh, Raiders are 5 and 2. Oh my God.
Because they were spiraling out of control with the Gruden controversy.
Yeah.
And once he left, they just got red hot.
And to the Tyreek Hill point, New York's defense did what they were supposed to do. I mean, 12 for 94 and a touchdown. Those are pretty good numbers, right? But they're not Tyreek Hill Xbox numbers, right? Like, so the Giants essentially contained him, right? They could live with him getting those numbers, and that's what you need to do to beat Kansas City. So the Giants defense did what they were supposed to do. Kansas City's in trouble. We've been saying this, so I need to mention this because they took about 10 minutes on one of the ESPN shows. I think it was the Stu Van Pelt show talking about Kansas City being in trouble. We've been having this conversation for 3 fucking weeks.
You're the one who called it.
We've been saying that they're in trouble. Somehow, some way, they figured out how to shut down, the offense and make Mahomes look human, right? And they don't have a defense. Now, they did go out and bulk up on some linebackers and stuff here at the trade deadline. So we'll see what happens, right? But unless you got Superman coming in to play defensive end or something like that, I just don't see it. They have a gauntlet ahead of them. And it's perplexing. I think to answer your question, I think it's the Jets. Did I expect them to win no games this year? No, not at all. Did I expect them to win the games that they won? Hell no. right? I think I'm on record of saying they have no chance in hell at winning this game.
Yeah.
I think that's my exact words.
Exact words. I can't even, not only did they win, but they won in epic fashion.
Yeah.
Like they made play after play after play. And it was like, and Joe Burrow didn't play bad. He had 3 touchdown passes. Right? He had 3 touchdown passes. And he spread the ball around. So he had a really good game. But you got a rookie quarterback comes in and throws for 405 on that defense that's played well all year in Cincinnati. And I'm not, and you can't just limit this to if the Jets just struck gold like they did against the Titans, you'd be like, they just had a great game, right? You like Jesus came down and blessed them that day. But they did it again. But then they'll get their asses beat. What was it, 54-3 last week? Or something like that? How does that happen? Like, what's really going on here?
The one thing I will say, the one thing I will say as far as the Bengals Jets game go is the Bengals. It's just this game, and not that it's an excuse and they're blah blah blah, but it has classic letdown written all over it. They just spanked the Ravens. They have another division opponent in the Browns, who, say what you want about them, were preseason predicted to steamroll the division. And then you just got the Jets in the middle of that. You know what I'm saying? Like, if there was going to be a game that maybe we should have just paid more attention to the scheduling. I mean, yeah, because they played the Lions 2 weeks before that and crushed them. They scored just about the same amount of points. So, I mean, I just think it was a letdown game more than the Jets doing anything in particular. They just came off of they just spanked the Ravens, maybe looking ahead to Cleveland a little bit. And the Jets just snuck up on them because their offense still performed. It's their defense that let them down. Anytime you score 30 plus points and don't win the game, that's on the defense, in my opinion.
Yeah. I have another question for you guys.
Was it in New York?
I was listening
to,
I don't know I think it was ESPN New York or something like that. And they were doing a segment on teams that run up the score. Right. And how there was this college team that was that college or high school? I don't remember what
high
it was.
School, 106-0 or something like that. Yeah.
Right. It was disturbingly bad. But what made it worse was they scored a touchdown to make the score 104. And they went for 2. Right. And then there was another game that they pointed out where it was like 54-0 or something like that. And they were in their victory formation to end the game, the team that had the lead, and they faked the victory formation. The quarterback ran for 40-something yards to score another touchdown, right? Now, there are some teams in the league that historically would run up the score. Usually they were Tom Brady-led teams, right? But I've seen other teams do it. Kansas City's done it. We've seen, I can't think of other teams right now, but there are teams that have done it. So my question to you guys is, not that you go into a game looking to run up the score, but do you agree with the coaching philosophy that once you have a comfortable lead, let's say a 2-touchdown lead going into the third quarter or fourth quarter, do you switch to a more conservative style play? Or do you do the same thing you did to dominate that game and have that comfortable lead?
You want that, Mike, or you want me to go?
I think you got to do what you do and play to win the game, right? Like we've seen too many times miraculous comebacks, right?
Miracle at the Meadowlands. Classic example.
3 times. No less, right? There is no reason in hell the Eagles should have won that game the last time, right? And probably a dozen different times.
We saw it in a Super Bowl too.
What's that?
You saw it in a Super Bowl.
Oh yeah, 28-3. It was 28-3. You know, like, and it's just, you can't let up, because it really, you know, it really does. It takes one play to change the dynamics and the culture of a game, right?
Well, hell, we almost saw it this weekend. We had the Rams were up 38 to like it was 6 or something like that on the Texans, and then they ended up with 22 points because they got like a touchdown, an onside, a touchdown, and like
Right. So I
like,
guess the point I'm making is, are you on 3rd and 1 at the 50, doing a play action and hitting the guy deep over the middle?
Hell yeah.
Or are you running the ball?
I'm doing
You
what I need
understand
to
what
do
I'm
to
saying? Because I
Yeah.
think a lot of coaches have adopted this. We got a lead. We're comfortable. Our defense is playing well. Let's just try to get the first down. Let's not try to get 10 yards and see if this guy can break a tackle OBJ style and run it for 40 yards.
I wish OBJ
Right?
played OBJ style. I think
Right.
in the NFL, it's a little bit different because they're professionals. You know what I'm saying? Like the thing about what makes it cringy in like high school sports is you got what like I think the quarterback for that team was like a UCLA commit. For all we know, he's playing against a bunch of dudes who will be lucky to walk onto a Division III team. You know what I'm saying? Like there can be ginormous talent disparities. Where the NFL, presumably, everyone is, you know, in the top 0.5% of their position, you know, across all the football players that have ever played football at, you know. So I think it's a little bit different when we look at the NFL because Loy hit it on the head. Like, yeah, you might be up 14 points late in the third, but it takes an interception, a pick six, and one touchdown drive, and the other team's right back in it. So it doesn't like maybe if there's 5 minutes left and you're up 3 touchdowns, okay, yeah, play. You know, at that point, if they can't stop your running game, they can't stop your running game. But no, at that point, to me, don't be taking 30-yard bomb, you know, shots down the field. And if you know, in the case of Philly and Detroit, if you're running the ball 40 times and they just can't stop, like I'm not
They
gonna have my
just can't
players
stop
purposely
them.
not, you know, yeah, if they just can't.
Yeah, I don't
stop,
think that was a good example, because not that you were making it, Monk, but
Yeah.
the Lions were just gassed. At the
Yeah.
time you're on your 30th run and they ran it 47 times or something like that, they're done. So there's just going to be gaping holes and missed tackles and stuff. But I agree with what Mike said. I agree with what you said, Chris. I think you keep doing what you did to gain that comfortable lead. I think there's too many times that we'll see. I mean, you talked about the kind of like, it's the professional courtesy, right? We're not going to beat you by 30. We'll beat you by 18 if they don't come back on you. I'm of a completely different mindset. I think you keep your foot on the gas. You do everything you did to get there. Now, if you're going to pull some of your starters out and that changes your play calling a little bit, it changes it a little bit. But you continue to press. You win the game. You put an exclamation point at the end of that game. That's
I'm not lining up in victory formation and faking out of that. You know, I'm not doing that.
But no, that was just like,
I'm not going for 2. I'm just going to kick the field goal on our 8th touchdown.
Come on.
You know.
So now that we're about, I think, you know, we're about halfway through the season. I think the interesting question is, who's the best team in the AFC? Because
I think it's Buffalo.
Yeah, but they've had, if you look at their schedule, I mean, the 2 they've lost, who they lose? I have to go back. I mean, they lost to the Steelers, which, I mean, if that happened again, does that happen again? I don't know. And they lost to so I guess so, because the other loss is to the Titans, who without Derrick Henry, we'll see how that plays out going forward. But
They've
that's
given up
different
109 points this season. That's
Yeah.
the lowest in the NFL. 109 points they've given up. I mean, that's they're scoring 230. They're the best team, you know, in the AFC at least. You know, NFC is stacked, which is odd because it's never been that way. It's always been the AFC that was stacked. but I think Buffalo's the best team in the AFC. I think that, you could make an argument for the Ravens. You could probably make an argument for maybe the Raiders. I mean, they're 5-2. With
I don't know
a
if that holds
major
out, though.
debacle in the middle of that.
If I was to list the AFC division, just the division, like don't worry about the wild card, whatever, just the division leaders right now. So that's the Titans, the Bengals, I think are they still considered? No, because I guess technically the Ravens would be first just because they have less losses, right?
Yeah.
So the Ravens, I lost count. The Titans, the Ravens, the Raiders, and
The
who am I
Bills.
forgetting? Bills.
Bills.
Out of those teams, if I was to tell you one wasn't going to make the playoffs, like not that I think it's going to, but if you were to guess which one of those teams has the greatest chance of not making the playoffs as division leaders halfway through the season, it has to be the Raiders, right?
Yeah, I would say so.
I mean, that's the closest division when you look at it. They're 5-2. The Chargers are 4-3, so they're only a game back. And then Denver and Kansas City are 4-4. Right? So, everybody's pretty close. Same can be said for the AFC. The North as well, though. You got 5-2, 5-3, 4-4, 4-4. I mean, I'd say the Raiders or the Ravens. Could be a lot of teams missing the playoffs, though.
There's not a team in that division without a losing record, or the North.
Actually, they're all in it. Everybody in the North
Yeah.
and the West are in the playoff hunt right now.
Yeah.
Every single team. Then you got the Bills and Patriots in the hunt. You got the Tennessee Titans and the Colts in the hunt, and that's it. So you have 12 teams out of 16 that are in the playoff hunt right now, legitimately.
See, I just wonder. I just wonder if you look at, so it looks like the NFC is stacked, right? But if you take those teams that are leading their divisions, the Rams, the Buccaneers, the Cowboys, and who am I forgetting? South.
Cardinals.
Packers.
Okay, I forgot about the Cardinals. That's right. So you got the Cardinals. So it feels like those, like the Cowboys, for example, they're leading the East. Well, does any other team in the East have a winning record? No, right?
But are they in the playoff hunt?
What?
But are they in the playoff hunt? And the Eagles aren't making the playoffs. Let me just forecast that statement, right? But they're 3-5, so that theoretically they're in the playoff hunt right now, even at 3-5.
Right.
So it's you got the Cowboys, the Packers, Buccaneers and Saints, Cardinals and Rams. Was that 6 teams?
Yeah.
6.
So there's going to be another team that makes the playoffs. I don't know who it's going to be. Maybe the Panthers. They're 4-3, right?
4-4.
They're 3-4. Shit.
4-4.
4-4. I mean, it's just interesting because I feel like the NFC looks stacked, but I also feel like there's a lot of there's just a greater disparity between the good teams and the bad teams in the NFC, which makes the good teams look better because they all have 1 or 2 losses.
I think the good teams in the NFC are better than the good teams in the AFC. That's why I mean stacked, right? Like right now, legitimately, the Cardinals, Rams, Buccaneers, Packers, and the Cowboys look formidable in the playoffs, right? And I think any one of those teams can beat each other, but they're all good. And then you have the Saints, who are surprisingly good, that could probably show up and beat one of those teams too.
Are they, though?
Surprisingly or good?
Good.
Yeah.
I don't know about that. I don't know. I mean, they are what their record says they are, right?
Their defense is good. All right,
I'll
let's.
say that.
All right, they have a
Their
really good
starting
defense.
quarterback is Trevor Simeon. I
He
mean, they
didn't
got
have a bad game.
got Mark Ingram back, which is good. That's a big plus for them. And if you do a whole bunch of screen plays and dump offs, you could probably move the ball up and down the field, but they're going to figure that shit out too.
Is what's his name coming back? They try to get OBJ.
Who's who coming back?
Say, who's their receiver that's hurt?
Oh, what's his name? The multi-gadget knife. The quarterback, receiver, running back.
Not him. He
What are you
led
talking
the
about?
league in receptions a few years ago. Jesus, why can't I name him?
Hopkins. Wait, who? what's his name?
Kamara, Alvin Kamara. Who
No,
played?
Michael
Thomas.
Thomas.
I don't know. What does it matter if you don't have a quarterback?
Who can throw the ball?
All right. I think that the New Orleans Saints are not what their records say they are.
All right,
I
that's
don't
a fair
believe it.
statement. I think they make the playoffs.
I think the fact that they are very well coached and play with a lot of discipline and have a good defense is the only reason they're 5-2.
Well, I got a bolder statement. I got a bolder statement for you. I don't think the Cowboys are as good as their record states. And I'm just going to back that up by saying they've played two teams that have winning records as of today. They beat one by 3 and lost to the other. Everyone else they've played doesn't have a winning record. Hands down. In
I
fact,
respectfully disagree, and I hate them. I think they are better than you're giving them credit for.
I mean, if I look at their schedule, if I look at their schedule, like seriously, if you look at their schedule, they lost to the Bucks, they beat the Chargers by 3, but we just got done saying we don't even know what the Chargers are out there doing, right? They beat the Chargers by 3, then they beat the Eagles, the Panthers, the Giants, the Patriots are 4-4 right now, and the Vikings. So, I mean, they haven't even, they're not playing exactly the cream of the crop, right? I mean, and they do play the Chiefs later on, but the Chiefs are in a down year. They do play the Saints, who, you know, you could argue is the other team that isn't as good as the record says. I mean, they play the Cardinals and they do play the Raiders. So, I mean, I guess how they do against the Raiders and Cardinals is going to tell us more about them than anything else. But as of right now, like, you know, congrats on them. Like, you know, they're 6-1, but they're not playing like the toughest schedule in the NFL right now. I mean, half the teams that they beat combined don't even have as many wins put together as they do. So, I mean, I'm not saying they're a bad team. I don't know if they're I don't know if they're as good as 6-1 sounds, I guess.
Well, let's look at it like this. The Dallas Cowboys have outscored their opponents by 63 points. There's not much of a better difference in scoring than that other teams that have winning records. They are formidable. I mean, the Buccaneers might be a little bit better in that category, but the Dallas Cowboys, listen, I'm the first one to sit here and tell you that they're going to be one and done in the playoffs, right? They might win the division game unless they have to play a wild card game, right? But after that, they're not going to make it. And that's just me being me, right? But I wouldn't be surprised if they made a pretty good run. I'll tell you what I think about Dallas, though. One of the things that everybody is like raving over Diggs, I think Diggs is overrated. I think Diggs, he'll make an interception, but he'll get beat on 6 other plays. I think he is much more of a liability than he is an asset. I'll say that about him and that team. But as far as the team itself, they're playing too good right now, Chris.
You brought up a really good stat. The point differential and Dallas's point differential is better than all but one team in the AFC. And that's the Buffalo Bills. And I mentioned that earlier. They're like plus 120 In contrast, the Houston Texans are minus 122. Minus 122.
Oh my God.
That's just terrible. The
What a
Detroit
line.
Lions are minus 110, and that's given up 44 and only scored 6. You know? And the Texans are minus 122. In the NFC, you know, you have Arizona's plus 108. So we should probably see that. The Rams and Buccaneers are plus 77. But then there's the Cowboys at plus 63. So they're in a top 5 or 6. I don't know how many I mentioned, you know, in differential points scored versus points against. So
Or they're top 5 in the NFC.
yeah. So it's they're a good fucking football team, man. And like, I don't know, I don't put a whole lot of onus on the schedule, right? Like, 'cause you can only play what's put in front of you. It's not your fault, right? Like, even the year the Eagles won the Super Bowl, you know, they had a last place record the year before, or a very favorable schedule because of their record the previous year. They went 13-3, right? Got into the playoffs and went to the Super Bowl, you know, so they still had to beat good teams. Is that because, you know, they were not as good as their record said they were, or they were just, you know, they were a good team? So, I mean, I think the Cowboys they figured it out, man. You know, and I think with Dak on the field and Zeke and Pollard running the ball, like, they are a very formidable team, and their defense is good enough this year that they're winning games that they lost last year.
And they have found a way where a lot of other teams have not, for the most part, to be healthy. Like, their key players have overall been, except for Gallup, right? Gallup's the one that he's been the missing link, and that has not slowed them down, not one bit. Dak's missed one game. Gallup's missed a few games, but CeeDee Lamb,
He's missed all of them. He's on one of my fantasy teams. That's the only reason.
Gallup, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, but a lot of their key players, they've been there and they've played well. You know, the Giants, oh my God, we haven't had a complete cast of characters the entire year. You haven't even, Chris,
No.
for your team. I don't know about the Eagles, but it's been tough sledding.
Eagles haven't been healthy. Their offensive line hasn't been the same since week 1.
Yeah.
Brandon Graham's done for the season in week like 2 or 3. Miles Sanders is hurt. You know, like, I mean,
that brings up another question I have for you guys. Somebody made a statement. I believe it was Logan Ryan, when asked how does he feel about playing on grass versus artificial turf. He said that he believes that all of the stadiums that have turf should be replaced with grass because it will help to reduce the number of injuries. What do you guys feel about that?
And we're talking that artificial turf that looks like grass,
pebbles and rocks and shit that comes out.
I think it needs to go. I agree, 100%.
Because this year, is it me or are we seeing more injuries, torn ACLs, MCLs?
Well, see, I think part of that, I think part of that now is the preparation for the season. It's a shorter preseason. The starters don't play.
Part of it.
The starters don't play because, I mean, the Browns, I don't know the injury reports in and out for every team. I know the Browns have been pretty injured, and I don't think they've played on artificial turf this year. So that would be my counter example. I think it's more a function of a shorter preseason, starters not playing, so they're not getting hit until the hitting's real in September, and that's what's leading to these injuries. I honestly think if they're going to continue with a shorter,
we're supposed to protect them, and it seems like it's putting them at greater risk.
Well, and I was going to say, I think what needs to happen, and this is my completely uneducated, just, from bits and pieces I put together, but I think if they're going to continue we're not going to play our starters and we're going to have a shortened preseason, then they need to, like, NFL teams just need to completely revamp their weightlifting and all that, because you gotta do something somewhere. You can't go from 0 to 100 and not expect things to happen. And it's coming up and hitting some of these teams.
These millionaires.
I'd go in a totally different direction, right? And like, I think this is just evolution of sports athletes, right? And they're bigger, stronger, and faster. A lot of these injuries are happening when there is no contact, right? I think that football is the one sport that tests on a daily, regular basis the limitations of the human body. Like, the human body was not meant to do some things that these guys are doing, right? Like, they're not meant to cut like Saquon Barkley. Like, I'm not going to say that collisions don't play a part in it. I think the conditioning absolutely has a factor, right? But like, I also think that, we're seeing more frequent injuries like ACLs and MCLs because, like, you can't really strengthen that, right? Like, you can lift all day long. You can do, leg curls all day long. You can do squats all day long, but you can't really strengthen the ligaments more than they are. So the rest of the body is moving at a speed, right? It's moving at a speed that, that ligament can't handle.
Well, and to go along with that too, I think part of it is the fact that an ACL isn't the death sentence to your career that it used to be. So now you got guys that they would get an ACL, and if they ever played again, it was going to be at a different capacity. And now like OBJ, freaking, he tore his ACL, and then he's coming out and just being the number one receiver again. Whether he's being used like that's another story, but the point is he's doing it, right? Delvin Cook, same thing. Any of these guys, what used to be a career-ending injury, if it happened to a guy right now, like this week, he might be back in time for the playoffs. Like, and that's probably part of it too.
That ACLs.
Yeah.
I mean, not ACLs, Achilles,
yeah. MCLs, ACL. I mean, yeah, Joe Burrow broke all the CLs, all of them, every single one you got. He tore.
I mean, it was a death sentence. That your career was over. Not even like you might come back. Your career was over.
And I don't remember the exact week, but it was like week 8 or so. It was like mid-season last year, and he was fine for the, and he's putting up numbers this year.
Yeah,
and
it's 6 to 8 months.
Yeah,
now.
That's it.
6 to 8.
So, just in the interest of I haven't had dinner yet, there is a Thursday night game. We could go on about this forever. You got the Jets, the resurgent Jets. We'll go ahead and call it that at the Colts, who are coming off of a tough divisional loss. I don't have the line or anything like that in front of me, other than it's at Indianapolis. Who you guys got?
Listen, if you asked me that a week ago, if you asked me that 3 days ago, there's no question I would say the Colts. I'm still going to say the Colts, but I'm not going to say there's no question about it. I think the Colts came off a very tough loss, a game that they should have won against the Titans. We're almost done. Against the Titans. They should have won if it were not for a bonehead pass interception that Carson Wentz had thrown. Twice. Yeah, there's 2 of them he did. But I still think that the Colts were a better team than they showed the other night. I think the Jets, what we saw was a unicorn game, if that even exists. I don't see Mike White throwing 4 touchdowns for 400 some odd yards again. Good for him that he did that. That was a great way for him to make his NFL debut. I remember another quarterback doing that. I forget what his name was. I think he played for the Raiders, or he played for the Bengals and got signed by the Raiders. He came out and had just a unbelievable, maybe it was the Packers he played for. Had an unbelievable game, threw 5 touchdown passes and got signed by the Raiders. And they were like, oh my God, we fucked up when he was their quarterback.
It was at that moment that they realized.
Yeah, it was that moment. But yeah, I'm going with the Colts on this one. I don't know what the score is going to be, but I think they're going to beat them pretty handily.
I can't believe. Well, I can. Carson Wentz blew that game twice, right? Like through that, I don't know what it was, okey doke kind of pass. He was trying to avoid a safety out of the end zone, picked off on the 3, fell into the end zone. I think they took the lead at that point. And then Indianapolis ties the game up, only to go into overtime for him to throw another pick. So how does he respond, right? I don't know. They're 10.5-point favorites. They're at home. I got to believe that he responds okay. I think that, their running game is pretty solid, so that shouldn't even be an issue. When you look at the game cast and you see like the leaders of the team, typically, you'll see a variation of 1 or 2 players from one team versus one for the other team for the leading passer, rusher, and receiver. I mean, the Colts have the top 3 in all of that, so they're not even showing anything from the Jets. I still don't know where Mike White came from. I didn't even look it up. It's just, I don't think, I'm not going to say there's no chance in hell this week, but I believe the Colts win this game. I don't think they cover though. 10.5 is a lot.
So just for comparison's sake, they were the Bengals were 11.5-point favorites, and we all saw how that turned out. This NFL year makes no sense to me. I don't know what's going on. I'm only getting about 60% of my games right. So just for the sake of getting Loy's draft picks higher next year, I'm going to say the Jets win by a field goal, because why the hell not? Nothing matters anymore. Dogs and cats are living together. It's just what's going on. So
keep that pick in the top 10, baby. Let's go.
So I think that's a good one. We didn't recap really much of anything, but you know what? It was a good podcast. I enjoyed that.
Oh, we covered a lot of topics, though. I think it was really good, too.
Yep.
Agreed.
All right, gentlemen. I got to go eat. I'll catch you later. See you
All
on
right.
Friday.
See you Friday.
Good night, guys.
Night.
Bye.